Thank you for tuning in to MacroView Television and welcome to a brand new edition of Taiwan Outlook, the program that presents the different faces and lets you hear their stories on Taiwan. I'm your host, Raymond. Do you enjoy road running? Have you been to recently a road running or other creative events? We're going to find out how to design and participate in such an event on today's program because we are delighted to have Mr. Larry Locke as our special guest. Larry is currently the Managing Director of Worldshare Events, and he has had over 15 years of experiences in designing, executing, and planning for these events all over Asia. Welcome to our program, Larry.
Hi. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. My name is Larry Locke. I'm the Creative Director for Worldshare Events for Taiwan and Singapore. Thank you.
All right. And Larry, can you tell us a little more about yourself? Because obviously you're ethnic Chinese, but you were not born in Taiwan. And where did you go to school, for example? And where else other than Taiwan have you worked?
Okay. I guess I'm like a lot of ABCs.
Okay.
ABC in this instance stands for American-born Chinese, Australian-born Chinese, and in my case, African-born Chinese.
Really?
So I'm actually from South Africa, and I was born in Johannesburg.
Okay, and then you went to the schooling system there as well?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And then pretty much moved to Taiwan. So I have worked in the region. I've worked obviously in Taiwan. We work a lot in Singapore. We've worked in Japan, China, Hong Kong, a lot of the Southeast Asia countries, from Thailand to Vietnam.
Yeah, we're going to learn a lot more about some of the events that you have planned. And as I mentioned earlier, you have over 15 years of experiences in terms of designing, planning, and executing events for companies and organizations all over, Asia. And given the fact that you have such a, tremendous wealth of experiences, can you also tell us, based on your observation, what is the state of creative events and also industry of advertising for companies? What is the current state of development in Taiwan?
I think looking at it more broadly, I think creativity in Taiwan, I think it's really an exciting time to be in Taiwan because there's a huge flourish of creativity. I think Taiwanese creative people, designers, artists have fantastic ideas, and I think Taiwan is often looked at by a lot of other countries as a place that is really at the heart of creativity. I think since Taiwan is an innovation center in terms of technology, the same thinking happens in arts. I think there are a lot of innovative, creative people in Taiwan. And I think more recently with the influence of the internet, people are now a lot more willing to be exposed to very different ideas, international ideas, small ideas from other countries. It's really allowed Taiwanese creativity to actually grow up and become a lot stronger. But I think if you look at the creativity, there's two sides to creativity. One is, I think, ideas, of which I think, as I mentioned, there's a huge abundance in Taiwan. So it's a great place to be. But I think an area maybe where we could improve, is maybe in terms of the execution. So let me give you an example.
Please.
I think if you look at Korean choreography and Korean pop groups, if you look at them compared to some of the groups in Taiwan, I think the Korean execution is a lot more slicker. The choreography is very, very stylish. The way people dress, the clothing is a lot more tailored. So I think there the craft is a lot higher. If you look at, say, like obviously the obvious example is an Apple Mac. The way that is designed is it is a lot more polished and simpler than some of the designs of some of the brands, locally. So I think when it comes to advertising, you have a similar situation. And the execution and the craft may not be quite on the level of world class in certain areas. So if you look at it objectively, in advertising they have something called the Cannes Advertising Awards, which is like the Oscars of advertising. Every year they award work of excellence, to the best advertising in the world. And obviously countries like the US and England normally dominate those awards. But then I think in the top 20 you get less developed countries. And a lot of the times you get countries like India, previously China, countries like South Africa and Brazil. These are smaller and less developed countries, but they win a lot of awards. Yes. Taiwan doesn't feature that often in these awards. And I think while the ideas are great, I think sometimes the craft and execution is not there. When it comes to craft, I think other countries, for example, Hong Kong. Hong Kong was obviously a British colony. So for a long time, the British have been the leaders in global design. And they do amazing work because they've had many years to develop that craft. So I think a lot of the British creative directors had a big impact during their time when they could have an influence, a positive influence on basic design teaching in Hong Kong, which I think Hong Kong benefited from. And it shows because Hong Kong has won a lot of international awards. And then a lot of people from Hong Kong moved into China, and that's why China benefited, I think, from some of those teachings as well. I think that's, once again, not to say that there is not an excellent level of creativity in Taiwan. I think there is. It just may have lacked, because it may have lacked that influx of ideas. And I think a lot of the time, creativity comes from diversity. So if everyone's thinking the same, you don't get that melting pot. We actually do a lot of trainings, corporate training, in both Taiwan and in Southeast Asia. So when we work in Singapore, it's quite interesting because they have a broader mix of people. You get people obviously from China, from Singapore, but you also get people from all the Southeast Asia countries coming together, Malaysia, people from a Muslim background, different religious backgrounds, people from Indonesia, Vietnam. So I think it's more of a melting pot. It's kind of like a New York of Southeast Asia. Yes. And so that leads to more ideas into the melting pot, and that can lead to greater creativity. Whereas I think Taiwan sometimes, because we are a geographic island, that's just our circumstance here. Yes. So I think it sometimes lacks that, influx of creativity. And I think if you look at it historically from a business point of view, maybe 10 to 12 years ago, Taiwan was the regional headquarters for some of the many companies in Greater China, for a lot of, a lot of multinationals. But over the years, they've moved to Hong Kong, to Shanghai, Beijing, Singapore. And I think we've lost out a little bit, which is a pity, because maybe we could have supported foreign talent a lot more. Yes. Whereas I think sometimes perhaps the higher authorities could have done a little bit more to encourage that. But I think we've probably missed that opportunity.
Yes. And Larry, let me ask you, you have worked and done programs and events all over, Southeast Asia and parts of Northeast Asia as well. And when you design, maybe similar events, for different places, different societies, different countries, do you have to take into consideration about the local customs, preference of people, and their, lifestyle, their, attitude towards things? Do those factors come into the design of the events that you have done?
Very definitely. I think you've actually hit it right on the nail.
Thank you.
There are a lot of differences in different markets. Yes. I think if you probably break it down, the first is probably the business environment. So it's great to actually do events in Taiwan because Taiwan, compared to, say, Shanghai or Singapore, the rent is a lot lower. So when you rent an event in Taiwan, you can do it pretty economically. But when you look at the business environment, say, in Hong Kong, and you have to pay maybe not just double, maybe 2 or 3 times the rent, it really affects how you approach the event. Because if your costs are prohibitive to go into a market where all of the business costs will be a lot higher, you have to rethink about how you charge for the event. Yes. And so you may need a bigger marketing budget, you may need a bigger execution budget, and more importantly, you'll need to also put up the prices of some of the tickets as well. So I think one is the business environment. But I think probably more important is maybe the culture. So I think if you look in Greater China, although there are Chinese people in all of these environments, there's a cultural difference. So let me give you an example.
Please.
We run an event where we use music to unite people in a company, because the great thing about music is it's a universal language.
Of course.
So everyone can relate to it.
All right.
But if you look at when we run our events in China, I think because the culture, the business culture for a local company is probably a little bit more conservative. And that's not a bad thing. That's just where it is. I think it's people are less spontaneous. So what we need to do is when we run an event there, we have to work with a trainer or a facilitator, that can really bring out the energy in people. And people have to first feel relaxed before they can open up.
Of course.
So when we run the drumming event, which I mentioned, which uses music, some people are a little bit shy when they first learn to play the drum or when they first get involved in an event. So they might be a bit more passive. But when we run the same event in Singapore or Southeast Asia, especially because there are a larger percentage of people come from India, and as you know, Indians love Bollywood, music, and dance. So what we find in those events, people are
very much involved and active.
Exactly. Very involved, very spontaneous. They actually get up and they start dancing. They're having a good time, and we don't even have to motivate them. Whereas in China, it might take a little bit longer to get people to do that. So Taiwan probably sits somewhere in between. I mean, I think Taiwan, some people are a bit more shy, but you do get a lot of people that love to enjoy themselves.
So I think the younger generation.
Yeah, so I think to answer your question, to come back to how we approach different markets, the key thing is to do a little bit of customization towards the local culture. Actually, I went to the recent Madonna concert. Did you go?
No, I didn't.
It was great.
That was in Macau, right?
No, in Taipei.
Oh,
in Taipei.
Okay. All right.
How about the Maroon 5?
No.
It was also a great concert. Anyway,
all right.
If you go to these two concerts, I think most people in Taipei really enjoyed them, and I think people, were dancing. They, enjoyed themselves. However, I think like with the Madonna concert, it was mostly the front rows that people were dancing and enjoying themselves. Whereas towards the middle and the back, people were enjoying it, of course, but they were more passive. They would sit there and watch the show and enjoy it. Whereas maybe in a different market, you would see everybody would be standing up throughout the whole show and dancing. So I think that's another example of how people react differently in different markets.
For the many different events that you have planned and executed in Taiwan, many of which involve road running, and tell us some of the more typical and representative road running events that we have seen coming out of you and out of your colleagues at Worldshare Events. First, Zombie Run. Let me ask you, why do you call it Zombie Run? Because you have to run like a zombie?
The Zombie Run was very unique.
Yes.
It's a great run because it's different to any other run that's ever been done in Taiwan. And as you know, there's been a lot of runs. But I think this is the very first time where a road run was actually a survival game. So what I mean by survival game is that as you're running along, zombies will come out and attack you. So what happens in the game is that each person or each runner gets a belt with 3 lives on it. So if a zombie comes and runs up to you and catches you, they might steal one of your lives. So the key thing is for you to try and get to the end of the race without having all 3 lives taken. That means you've survived. And if you don't, it means you're infected and you become a zombie. Did you ever play like catch when you were a kid?
Yes, of course.
So I think just think about that. That excitement you had as a child when people were chasing you. That's what we captured with the Zombie Run. And I think if you think about it from a basic instinct point of view, everybody loves the achievement of if they survive something. So when you were playing catch as a kid and you remember not being caught and you felt so good about it, that's exactly how people felt. So I think there's a heightened sense of adrenaline, not only because you're exercising and running, but there's a much, much, much bigger, deeper thing that reaches into 2,000 years of DNA. And that's your will to survive. And when people can go to an event where they have this excitement, it's a huge success. And,
yes, indeed.
I think the other reason why it was a success as well is not only because of the excitement, but I think, as you know, people in Taiwan and a lot of Asia, they love to dress up.
Yes.
Okay, they love to put on makeup because it allows them to be more creative. And I think deep down in all of those engineers and all of those accountants and all of those bankers and all of the people working out there, there is a creative side to them. So it allows them to live their alter ego. So a lot of the people could actually choose whether they wanted to be a runner or a zombie. And actually, it was interesting. I would have thought that most people would be scared to be a zombie. But actually, most people wanted to be a zombie. And interesting enough, most women chose to be a zombie. So it was a great opportunity, I think, especially these days in this era of cell phones and people enjoying taking pictures. It allowed people to be part of the experience, take pictures, and to do something a lot more creative. And I think it actually came out because we were featured in a lot of magazines, from GQ to MTV. In fact, we were covered on MTV for 3 different programs with this event. And the interesting thing about it is that we decided to actually fund this through crowdfunding as well. And we actually hold the record of being, at that stage, the highest funded event through crowdfunding. And we even appeared on the Wall Street Journal.
Good. All right. Another special, road running event that you have designed and executed in Taiwan is the Snoopy Run. Can you tell us a little bit? I mean, of course, the name itself suggests it has to do with the cartoon character. And can you tell us what's so special about it besides the character?
Okay, yeah. I think Snoopy Run is a wonderful event because everybody loves Snoopy. I mean, a lot of people grew up with watching Peanuts cartoons. There's been the recent Charlie Brown movie. So Snoopy Run is a lot different to the zombie run. So I think the key thing that we try and do at Worldshare Events is to try and find events that appeal to a certain very focused target group. So while the zombie run might have appealed to more adventure seekers, the Snoopy Run appeals more to families and friends.
Young at heart.
Young people that are young at heart, and it has a much more social component. In other words, when people run, they often run against the clock. They're pushing themselves. But I think with the Snoopy Run, why it became so popular is because it has a social element. And so when we designed the event, we created slogans like "Friends Run Together." So it encourages people to be part of a collective group. So while, as you mentioned, the Snoopy Run, we actually gave people a wonderful Snoopy T-shirt.
That's
obviously
wonderful.
People like Snoopy. And then not only did they have a Snoopy T-shirt, they got a great medal. I think Snoopy's famous for Linus. Linus would carry around his blue blanket. So we have an inspired Linus towel.
That's
and
nice.
Of course, it wouldn't be complete without Charlie Brown. So what we did is we gave everybody a drawstring bag with a signature Charlie Brown pattern, which was great. So I think apart from the signature pattern, I think what makes these events a little bit more special is that we try and find in every event, it must be a unique experience. Because if people have gone to a run or they've done an event that someone else has done before, it has less appeal. So I think what we really try and do is we encourage creativity. We try and find something that no other event has done before. And obviously Snoopy has this theme. But I think the great thing is that we came up with these. And this idea is, can I give this to you?
Sure, please.
All right. This is a beagle nose. So you know Snoopy's got the black nose. This is called the beagle nose. So if you put it on, it actually you can actually put it, and then people can put their beagle nose on and take a selfie, which is great. So it's a very unique idea.
Yes.
And so you can imagine 10,000 people wearing this nose. And I think what happened is
that's quite a sight.
It's a lot of people with a lot of beagle noses.
Okay.
And I think it was interesting because it became so popular. We launched about the same time as Maroon 5. And it was a big thing in the news that Maroon 5 was sold out within one day.
Yes.
And we also sold out within one day. You know, all 10,000.
How big was the pool?
About 10,000 people.
Oh, that is
so it's
quite impressive.
We kind of had a rock concert for Snoopy. So pretty much up there with Maroon 5.
Another, event I want to talk to you about, Larry, is the Tiger Run. Okay, we have talked about the Zombie Run. You told us what's so special about it, and we have just finished talking about the Snoopy Run, and you have shown us the different kinds of souvenirs that people can come away with, and also this creative idea about the nose. And how about the Tiger Run? What's so special about it?
Okay. Well, we didn't have tigers chasing people.
No, okay, good. All
no,
right.
the Tiger Run is also, once again, it's a very different type of event.
Okay.
The Tiger Run is actually the Tiger Air Run. So Tiger Air is a corporate client. As you know, Tiger Air offers discounted flights.
Yes.
They provide fantastic, affordable flying to most parts of Asia.
Yes.
And Tiger Air was actually our client for this event. And they're a fantastic client, and they're a fantastic airline. And what they wanted to get out from this event was to have people fans of Tiger Air participate in a big event.
Yes.
Now, the challenge for this event, I think like most corporate events, when it's an event that is held by a company, sometimes some people think it cannot be as crazy or creative as a consumer event. But I think that is the challenge to event companies or our team, at least. And once again, I think you need to put on your creative hat, and you need to find a way to think a little bit more out of the box. So I think how we made this corporate event more interesting was through the different experiences that people could enjoy during the run. So we came up with some different ideas, like I think it was, that was during the time just before the typhoon, unfortunately. There was a typhoon, and then some guy came up, and he was known as the Typhoon Guy because he said some funny things about the typhoon. So we actually, instead of hiring a normal celebrity, we hired the Typhoon Guy to be one of the key celebrity spokespersons. As well as we hired someone who's a little bit crazy, a celebrity MC called Kiwi Baby. So I think with this combination of these two different personalities, it really made the whole Tiger Air Run feel a lot younger and a lot more appealing, a bit more current.
Okay, good.
And we also did something different. We kind of we had a fashion show during the run. Which is unusual.
That is unusual.
And what made it more unusual is that most fashion shows use female models. And we decided to do something a little bit different.
Just
we used
everybody.
No, we used the air stewards from the airline. So we took all the good-looking, handsome guys from the from the staff, and all the guys, the men. Did the show, and the women loved it. You heard a lot of shouting and screaming. And the guys looked sexy in a different way, not sexy like normal, in a healthy way, because it's meant to be a great healthy event. Sexy and fun, I would say. So that's what made this event a lot more special.
And Larry, I see in front of you, you have a bow, an arrow, and also a partial mask. Tell me, do those props have something to do with an event that you have planned to execute it called the Archery Shoot?
Raymond, that's right. This is a fun game. It's a special event that we created in Taiwan. Have you ever played paintball?
Yes,
right.
Of course,
so it's very similar to paintball. It's a survival game. Except instead of using guns, you're using a bow, and arrows. Now, it's kind of a little bit like paintball meets the Hunger Games.
Okay.
So the Hunger Games, I think everybody loved that movie because what she had to do is she had to use these basic, skills and basic apparatus, which is a bow and arrow, to survive.
Yes.
And this game works the same. Basically, we normally have a field, maybe 5 people versus 5 people. Each person gets a bow.
Okay.
And each person gets a series of arrows.
Okay.
And the goal of the game is to try and eliminate your opposing team.
Okay.
So if you get shot by the arrow, then you are officially shot and out of the game. Okay. So it's a process of elimination.
All right.
So a little bit like most survival games, that obviously it's very, very exciting. It's probably a lot more exciting. It's probably the newest survival game in Taiwan, and probably the most exciting.
Okay.
So what actually happens is, I'll just give you a demonstration. Yeah, this is the bow. Now, I think some people might be thinking, "Whoa, I don't want to get shot by an arrow."
No.
Okay.
Okay.
The great thing about these arrows is it's actually a very, very safe sport.
Yes.
It's actually been played in a lot of countries around the world.
Okay.
And the arrow actually has a soft tip.
Yes.
If you just touch that.
Cushion. Yes, of course. Yes.
Okay. And it's actually designed, there's a special design to this arrow where the top is actually, as it hits you, it's designed to absorb the impact. So it actually travels very quickly.
Oh, really?
Which I'll show you. Should I show you?
Okay. Yeah, you can show me how it's, you put it in on the bowl.
So what you would do is you'd actually put it in like this.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
There we go. And then you would just pull it back like that.
Okay.
And then you would shoot.
Release.
Can I shoot?
Okay. Sure. Please.
Okay. There we go.
That's quite a bit.
It's that easy.
Of course. Yes.
And I think what makes this a fantastic sport is you end up doing a lot of running.
Okay.
You feel a bit like an animal because you have to run for your life and make sure you don't get shot.
Okay.
So it's an exciting game.
How about the mask?
Oh, the mask is part of our safety procedure. I think while it is very safe, I think our policy at Worldshare is safety is number one.
Of course.
So we make sure that everybody has a protective mask.
Okay.
But we can talk about safety a little bit later.
Yeah, in the program. How about the other, event that you have planned, the so-called the bubble ball game? When you listen to the name, you think it's going to be another fun game by Worldshare Events. Can you tell us what's so special about it?
Bubble ball is it is a crazy sport. I think think of yourself as maybe being wrapped up in bubble wrap or an airbag.
Yes.
What happens is people actually use a huge air bubble.
Yes.
They climb inside the air bubble.
Okay.
And then they play a game of soccer. So you might have a team of 5 or 6 people versus 5 or 6 people.
And you roll around.
You roll around.
Yes.
So the great thing about the bubble, the air bubble, is that it actually levels the playing field so that people are about the same size.
Yes.
And what happens is not only are you playing football, your goal is to score into the opponent's goal.
Okay.
But the great thing about it is you can actually knock people over. So when you bump them with your bubble, they obviously fall on the air, so they're actually protected. So it's a great fun game, and it's become very popular. We've had probably 40 to 50 different celebrities in Taiwan come out and play this game.
Yes.
In fact, we've even had our mayor of Taipei, Mayor
Mr.
Ke.
Ke.
Yeah, he organized a special event during his election campaign, I might add. He wanted to look for something that really connected with young Taiwanese, young people in Taipei. And they obviously came to us and they asked us to come up with an event. So we suggested the bubble ball is a really fun way to really get involved with people.
Yes.
Because it's a lot of laughter, it's a lot of enjoyment, and it's something unique and different. So he even used us for one of his events.
Okay, good. And let's talk about another event that you have planned, the so-called silent disco party. And I know because this is very special in the sense that participants don't listen to the music, disco music that's played out loud, but actually they do have a set of earphones and they listen to the music on their earphones. And different, participants may be listening to different music. And then, this is something that nobody will expect in a regular, routine disco party. Tell us about the idea.
Yeah, let me show it to you, actually.
Okay,
it's
that's
probably
the headphone.
easier. So
yes.
let me give you one.
Please. All right.
There you go.
It doesn't have music playing,
Right.
is it?
We don't have the music right now,
right.
but
I can
we'll just put it on. Yeah. So
yes.
actually what happens is people actually put it on like this.
Okay.
Right. And so what happens with these is that there is no music in the party. No, so that's why we call it a silent party.
Okay.
Because the music is coming through the headphones. So the great thing about the silent party is it's actually a green environment party because there's no noise pollution. Okay. So it is the first healthy party to be done in Taiwan. Okay. It's the first time ever. And what's unique about it is that you can actually have a silent party anywhere you want. Okay. So you could have it in a library. Okay. You could have it in a museum. Okay. You could have it, as we did, in a gym, or we also had it in an open park. The thing with living in big urban environments is that people cannot have house parties because the music would upset the neighbors. But the great thing with silent parties is you can actually turn anywhere into a party because you're not going to actually
create any noise.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's very, very environmentally friendly. Okay. And the great thing about a silent party or headphone party, as they call it, is that it's probably the most social type of event that you can go to. Okay. I think these days people, young people especially, they have a limited choice. They normally go to KTV, or they go to a nightclub, or they go to a lounge bar. Okay. At least with a silent party, it provides a healthier alternative. And why I say it's very social is because if you go to a nightclub, the music is very loud. And so if I met a girl that I liked, and I wanted to go and talk to her, usually what happens is you say,
yes.
You're like shouting like this and say, "Oh, how are you? What's your name?" And then the person goes, "Yeah, sorry, I can't hear you." And you say, "Yes, yes." And the conversation becomes very superficial. Yes. Because you cannot really converse because the music is too loud. The amazing thing about a silent party is that you just take it off and then you can talk to each other. And then when you want to go back to dance, you put it back on again. Oh, so it's a lot more social because you don't have to, you can actually have a real conversation in a party. Whereas normally you don't do that, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it doesn't happen.
And Larry, I'll just add one more thing about it is that have you ever been to a party where you're dancing or you're not dancing because you don't like the music? The great thing about the silent disco or silent party is that it has different channels. So we normally have a series of different DJs playing. Okay. Now, if you had two DJs playing in a normal nightclub, that couldn't happen because it would just be a noise, right? Yes. Be a mixture of two songs. But because you have different channels, each dancer or each party goer can actually choose which song you like. So I might be dancing, to house music, which is what I like, But I might be with, or you might be with your girlfriend, and she likes dance music, or your other friend, she might like commercial pop music. So you could each be listening to the music you like, but you're still dancing together. Yes. So the great thing about that is that it makes everyone happy.
Yes, yes, indeed. Let me ask you, Larry, giving all these, very creative, very fun games and events that you have designed, not just for Taiwan, but for other, Asian markets as well, what has been the usual response from people? Certainly, you told us that for the Zombie Run, for example, you had a very, good turnout, over 10,000 people. But, what is the general reaction from people when they first learn about the event that's put up by Worldshare? I mean, do they have an open mind, or do they feel like, oh, this is something I need to get to know it a little better before I decide if I like it or not?
I think there isn't one answer. I think there's not a single answer or a single response. I think different events, you do get a different response. People? So I think, for example, the Zombie Run, like you said, got an immediate response. Yes. Something like the silent party, which we just spoke about, got a slightly different reaction.
Really?
The reason why is because it's such a new concept, and it has not been done in Taipei. So sometimes when you are first to market, it's great, but it also means you have to educate the market. So you have to spend a lot of time and effort explaining what it is. So I think something like the silent disco, when you first tell someone about it, they might go, that sounds interesting, but I don't quite get it, right? But actually, when people come to the event, it's a 100% enjoyment. So if you spoke to or you interviewed people, which obviously they did, we had a couple of news media come and cover the silent discos. In fact, we just had one a few months ago, which was actually sponsored or arranged by the Taipei Arts Festival.
All right.
And people really love it. They think it's so different because it's actually crazy.
Experienced before.
It's a crazy experience. Can you imagine a room with like 200 or 300 people, and everyone is dancing, but there's no music? When you walk in, you think, hey, these people are nuts. But then you become one of the nuts, and you also enjoy. You join in.
Enjoy. Let's talk about another very interesting, very, maybe at the beginning people are going to think it's unique or bizarre event that you have planned, which is called
the lots of bizarre events.
Drum Cafe. Drum Cafe event. I mean, tell us a little bit about, do we need to use drums, for example?
So let me first explain the name. Sometimes when people hear Drum Cafe, they think, oh, it's a place where I go for coffee. It's actually not a coffee shop at all.
No.
Drum Cafe is just a name. It's a corporate name. It's a brand, which is used all around the world for corporate drumming. And the reason why we use corporate drumming, is because in a lot of companies, there's a lot of problems. People maybe don't communicate so well. Maybe this department doesn't get on well with this department. Sometimes senior management are out of touch with their local employees. So this is when companies ask us to come in. The reason why we come in is our job is to help create a more unified staff. What we do is we build team spirit. And how do we do it? We do it through music. And music is a universal language that everyone can relate to. So if you had to ask most people in your company, would you like to go and work for a company where everyone hates you and doesn't communicate well?
Of course
What would
not.
the answer be?
No.
Exactly, right. Everybody would love to work with people that they can connect with. But what happens in real companies? There's politics, There's pressure. So people have differences. They come from different cultures, different backgrounds. There's misunderstandings. So what happens is a lot of conflict. Drum Cafe is a proven formula. And it's a proven methodology that actually really breaks down barriers between people that have differences and can unite them. So what actually we do is, I'll just show you.
Yes, you have also given me a
just
drum
gave you
here.
a drum, right?
Yes, we'll pick
Each
it up.
person would get a drum. So if your department was 30 or 40 people, or sometimes we have big departments for 200 or 300 people, it doesn't matter if it's a department or a company, each person gets one of these drums. So I'll give an example. Try
What
this.
do we do with it?
Yeah, so you can actually play it. So. So I've just showed you that in 1 second we are already in harmony.
Yes.
And usually what happens is that people, should I put it here?
Sure, please. I'll put it down.
Usually what happens is most people are out of harmony in a company. And what we do is out of sync, right? So what we do is we teach different groups. Each person has a different role in the company. Some person might be in charge of sales, some in marketing, R&D, etc. So we give them different beats to play. And what happens is we then synchronize these beats to show how we synchronize their roles. And even though people have different roles in a company, when they work in harmony, they become one orchestra.
Of course.
And when we are one orchestra and we're all playing different roles, but we are contributing to the music, then we can create music and we create magic. And that's really the analogy of what we do.
So that is, when you go into a company and give everybody a drum and then, people drop what they were doing and then start playing with it, And until the time they synchronize and then they play harmony?
Well, we have different programs.
Okay.
So it really depends on, each company would have different types of needs. So we might have a 1-hour program where we go into a company to motivate them.
Okay.
Or we might have a full day or half a day training program. Okay. So we have different types of activities that revolve around drumming and music, which would encourage people to communicate better, connect better, learn to understand the other person's point of view. And this is all done through drumming. And the actual interesting thing about drumming is, as I mentioned, I was actually born in South Africa. These drums are from Africa. And there's something special about Africa because in Southern Africa, when you go to a performance, it's very different to the Western concept of performance. In most shows, you would be the audience and you would go and watch the artist play a show. And you would not be involved. You would just clap and enjoy it. In Southern Africa, there is no such concept as an artist or a performer. Originally, what happened was the artists and performers did not exist. When you joined a drum circle or you joined, if you went to a village, 200 or 300 years ago, you would become part of the performance. So there was no difference between audience and performer. Everybody was part of the community. So when the community got together, it was a chance for everybody to sing, dance, be involved, and connect with one another. And so this fundamental concept is basically the backbone of what is behind corporate drumming, because it really does connects people. And at the end of the day, as I asked you the question before, would you like to not get on with people, or would you like to rather connect with people? Of course, deep down, everybody wants to connect. They want to be part of the community. And that's what drumming does. It does it in a sort of in a non-logical way. But after every event, people feel connected. And we've run this event for very, very serious companies, like top banks. We've worked with Standard Chartered, we've worked with Procter & Gamble, Unilever, we've worked with big tech companies. I've run sessions with Google, we've worked with HTC, Samsung, and all of these big companies from Yahoo, etc. And everyone is always happy. We get a 99.99% satisfaction rate. Not satisfaction. People actually, they come and they shake your hand. They love the events because it is so powerful.
All right. And Larry, thank you for letting us know all these fun and creative games or events that Worldshare Events have put up over the years. And but one thing, especially since last year's Formosan Fun Coast explosion accident happened, a lot of people are concerned about safety at these fun games or events, even though most of the games that you have introduced on the program today really don't have too much of a threat to personal safety or to the group safety. But what are you doing at Worldshare Events to try to enhance and protect the safety of participants and make sure that this is a fun game and it stays a fun and safe game at the end?
I think that's a really important question. At Worldshare, safety is always our priority. Even if it seems like something simple, like drumming, we even do have a safety procedure, and we advise people on how to play it. But I think safety for our consumers, for the people that come to our events, is always important. So, for example, if it was the runs, our staff always know where the nearest hospital is. Now, in reality, most people don't really get any serious injury during our runs, because most of our runs are actually a 5K run, which is relatively short. So we do not actually have a lot of problems. So I think all of our staff are briefed to advise runners if there is an issue, where to go, where is the nearest first aid center, if it requires anything more serious, then which hospital to go to. And I think for other events, for example, like the archery or the bubble ball and certain events, we actually have a very thorough safety procedure plan in place.
All right. Let me ask you, if you were to ask to design something uniquely for Taiwan, what would it be? And what would be some of the considerations that go into the planning of the game?
Well, I think creating something unique for Taiwan, there's a couple of ways to do it.
Okay.
One is to make sure that it really appeals to, to local tastes, local culture, and also to make sure that there's something unique about it.
Okay.
So we actually do events like that.
Good.
For example, when people come to Taiwan, they want to do something that is uniquely Taiwanese. We run races where people can try different Taiwanese cuisine or food around Taiwan. They might go to try a mango pudding, ice pudding here. They might try xiaolong bao, etc. And we even designed something for Taitra. This is an example which we did. Taitra created a DVD to promote the best Taiwan products around the world.
Yes. Okay.
And the reason why we won this business is because we really made it a little bit special. On this DVD, we created a piece of music, which we used Aboriginal Taiwanese singers, as the chorus, but we mixed it with a Western percussive beat. So that's what we were saying to the world is, hey, we have our own way of doing things in Taiwan, which is unique. But at the same time, we're also modern. We're moving forward. We understand how to relate to Western audiences. So it's this intersection of these two types of sounds that says, hey, we've got our taste and we've got our uniqueness, but we also understand what you're doing. And by doing that, that made this DVD unique as well.
Okay, good. Thank you, Larry, for being a special guest on our program today. Certainly enjoyed our conversation and certainly want to wish you and Worldshare Events all the best in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Raymond.
Okay. Thank you for watching our program today. I'll see you next time on MacroView Television. Thank you.